There is a truth older than the ages. There is a promise of things yet to come. There is one born for our salvation, Jesus. There is a light that overwhelms the darkness. There is a kingdom that forever reigns. There is freedom from the chains that bind us. Jesus, Jesus, who walks on the waters, who speaks to the sea, who stands in the fire beside me. He roars like a lion, he bled as the lamb, he carries my healing in his hands. Jesus. There is a name I call in times of trouble. There is a song that comforts in the night. There is a voice that calms the storm that rages. He is Jesus, Jesus. Who walks on the waters, who speaks to the sea, who stands in the fire beside me. He roars like a lion, he bled as the lamb, he carries my healing in his hand. Jesus, Messiah, my Savior, there is power in your name. You're my rock and my Redeemer. There is power in your name, in your name. You walk on the waters, you speak to the sea, you stand in the fire beside me. You roar like a lion, you bled as the lamb, you carry my healing in your hands. God, you walk on the waters, you speak to the sea, you stand in the fire beside me. You roar like a lion, you bled as the lamb, you carry my healing in your hands. Jesus, there is no one like you, Jesus. There is no one like you.
These are the spiritual leaders of the United States Army, ordinary Americans who have answered our nation's extraordinary call to nurture the living, care for the wounded, and honor the fallen.
When you see your chaplain on the battlefield, it is like a moment of home that nobody else can recreate.
They are rabbis, ministers, imams, and priests who serve our nation's heroes and their families as committed members of the United States Army.
In the crucible of war, Often it's the spiritual strength that a soldier has, is their belief and faith in God that will get them through the most difficult times.
Chaplains have served with distinction in every engagement, adhering to the 7 Army values of loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage.
Working for God, you need to take the example of other godly people who've gone before you.
From the battles of Lexington and Concord to Fallujah and Kandahar, chaplains have been an integral part of Army history and remain vital to its future. Whether leading worship, visiting the hospital, or counseling soldiers and their families, Army chaplains are always at the front line of the soldier's life.
I just really gained an appreciation for the soldiers that serve us and put their lives in danger every day so that we can live in the freedom that we do. And this was an opportunity for me to be able to give something back and something a little bit different.
We have a thing we call Ministry of Presence, and it's getting out of the chapel, it's getting out of the staff office and going and being with the soldiers, because you're there with them when they have those questions, when they're feeling down. And I've had my most profound ministry experiences just as I've gone out to my guys and to my soldiers to share some truth with them, to remind them that God is present, to remind them that they are spiritual in nature and they can grow in that.
They're out there contributing to the Army's mission, contributing to soldiers and their lives and their happiness, and definitely taking care of the families in a way that adds to everything that the Army's trying to achieve.
U.S. Army chaplains serve both God and country by bringing their unique gifts to the soldiers of our nation. Qualified and sent by their religious bodies, trained by the U.S. Army, and led by the God they serve, Army chaplains provide dynamic and influential spiritual leadership.
The whole concept of chaplain ministry is that you're working outside of the realm of regular parish work, and you are where they are. And to sit down with them and help them get some of the puzzle pieces of their life put together is very rewarding.
Chaplains are the Army's spiritual leaders. They are men and women who have been sent by their churches, synagogues, mosques, and temples to walk alongside soldiers and family members of all faiths.
It's really more one-on-one, getting out there, talking with soldiers, seeing what their problems are, and basically getting them to open up and share with you what their innermost thoughts are, and let them know you're ear there to listen, and then you have a word of encouragement to help them get through the day.
The best case scenario in service in the Chaplain Corps is when people know your name because they trust you for the work that you have done with them, and that whether in good times or bad times, if they need you, they know who you are and they know where to find you.
Whether at home or abroad, whether in times of peace or times of turmoil, chaplains are present as constant symbols of spiritual comfort and sustained hope.
I'm much more dedicated, much more in touch and tune with myself, my role as a non-commissioned officer, and also with my role, to my family as a father, as a husband, and to be able to do that well. It's been a direct result of the mentorship and leadership through chaplains.
We really get to live with the families and go through what they go through, and it makes the experience and the ministry so much more real.
But it's not an easy job. It takes, I think, a strong backbone. But God is calling these kind of ministers into the military right now to help soldiers and their families.
The chaplains that we've met have just really been a part of our lives and stayed with us and encouraged us and kept the hope going. That to me has been a chaplain being a chaplain and actually living and walking out everything that I think the Chaplain Corps asks for them to be.
United States Army Chaplain Corps will be there, in any mission, in any place, to all faiths, and at any cost.
I feel like this is an important time in history for chaplains, and we need to be on our A game. Not only need to understand the military culture, the Army culture, but also be godly spiritual men and women that are called.
I am just hoping to be able to serve our soldiers as best I can, within my faith, and even, everybody else who's not within my faith.
The U.S. Army Chaplaincy assists in ensuring the right of the free exercise of religion for all soldiers.
Soldiers have the same constitutional rights that every other American citizen has, and in order to protect those, we're going to make sure that chaplains are there.
You walk up a mountain in war with a soldier, and they know you're on their side. When they know you're on their side, whether they believe or not, they know that God is with them.
The U.S. Army Chaplain Corps, spiritual leadership for the Army family.
There's no doubt that our young men and women who leave their mothers and fathers, their sisters and brothers, their wives and their children, and raise their hand, face the opportunity of going to war, possibly not coming home. These are heroes. Heroism is born of integrity, and it is religious conviction which inspires integrity and helps people discover a sense of moral clarity. Since the founding of our nation, our Sea Service personnel have been accompanied by their chaplains and religious ministry professionals drawn from the many faith traditions. The Chaplain Corps assures that our nation is well served by the Sea Service personnel who are spiritually confident, genuinely cared for, well advised, and morally centered. Our families must know that the sacrifices they might be asked to make are considered sacred.
An old World War II Navy chaplain that I knew passed away. And I remember thinking about at his funeral, what would somebody do if they wanted to be a Navy chaplain? Started falling through the right doors into the chaplain candidate program when I was in graduate school.
When I was in seminary, there's a chaplain candidacy program. I had a chance to be with an infantry unit for a month, and I knew this is what I wanted to do.
Being a pastor had its own rewards. It was fun in a lot of ways, but it wasn't, for me, as challenging as I wanted. It seemed like chaplain was always in the back of my mind.
The more I found out about the ministry in the Navy, the more intrigued I was and saw the tremendous need for chaplains. Went into the seminary, graduate school seminary. We do 4-year graduate degree. And after the first year of graduate school, I was commissioned in the Navy as an ensign.
It's physically challenging, it's emotionally challenging when you have to be separated from your family. It can be spiritually challenging. You have to make sure, especially as a chaplain, that you stay full because you minister from the overflow of what you have in you. And if you're empty spiritually, then you don't have anything to offer the troops.
You're out in the middle of, God knows where, literally, out on the ocean, and you're with these people who are all sacrificing their time and talents, some of the best young men and women our nation has. And you're sharing in their joys and sorrows. You're part of this.
And these are the most amazing people on the planet. I mean, I'll argue with anybody that sailors, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen are the most amazing people on the planet. I mean, just look at the sacrifices they make to do the things they do and to keep this country free. And we as chaplains get to be there with them.
It's really important for our representation as the Navy Chaplain Corps to be as diverse as possible. We're here to ensure the free exercise of religion. And oh, by the way, we're also here, if you don't want to practice religion, to make sure that you have that freedom too. So the more diverse our Corps is, the better.
The greatness of our nation lies in our people, the diversity of our people, I would say. It's not you being Muslim, it's not you being Christian, it's that unique capability of all of us to come together and fight as one united force. We do operations in nations which are predominantly Muslim, so it is a learning opportunity for people.
No one cares what your religion is. You're the chaplain. You're the chaplain. You represent God, you represent calmness, and you represent truth.
You facilitate for their religious needs, provide for those of the same faith, but provide care and advise, which is totally different than that pastoral role that a lot of people see.
You may specifically minister to Roman Catholics sacramentally, but during the week I'm doing a lot of counseling, so it's everybody.
A lot of counseling sessions don't happen when these Marines come into my office. A lot of it happens when I'm in the field with them and they pull me aside. And just because I was there, what was taught to us in chaplain school was always have, they call it hip pocket sermons, something ready to go in your hip pocket so you can break it out and do a field service on the fly. Even youths grow tired and weary. Young men stumble and fall. Do you guys feel that way? Yeah, especially carrying on that Ma Deuce over there.
And the wonderful thing about chaplains of any flavor, they're the one person that the sailor or Marine or Coast Guardsman can always come to, and it's completely confidential.
The chaplain is the person that provides the safety net. When I sit down and talk with a sailor, I usually tell them, what we talk about is between you and me. I know guys who've been asked by their commanding officer, what did he tell you? Sir, I can't tell you that.
The chaplain is the one with the pulse on the troops, talking with these men and women, understanding where they're coming from in their perspective. It's our seat at the table that brings those voices to life for the commanding officer.
I love people, and to care for people, no matter where they come from. The commission, Matthew 28, going out to minister to all nations.
When you lay your head on the pillow, you have such a sense of, I did something valuable. I did something important. I ministered to somebody, touched them in a way that perhaps no one else could ever do.
There is no place on this planet where you can serve God, country, and religion all at the same time. It's a good, rewarding experience.
I go where the Navy needs me, and I believe that's part of God's plan. And everywhere I've been able to connect with people, to be able to help them enriches me. It makes me a better person.
A lifestyle of sacrifice, of hard work, but you get to be with people. And if you can love people under harsh circumstances and not worry about yourself, you let God take care of you, you take care of the people, you can be a Navy chaplain.
God has a plan for me. I have no clue as to what that is, but I'm going to just keep going as long as I can while the military allows me to be in here.
I was a chaplain assigned to Marines in 1991 during the invasion of Kuwait during Desert Shield and Desert Storm. I went in with the Marines, accompanied them into the international airport, and after it was all cleared, we encountered some vehicles, and a woman pulled out her baby, pulled him out the window, and in broken English she said, "Because of you, he is free."
I would say to the young person thinking about doing this, look inside your heart. Look inside your heart. Do you care about people? Do you want to make a difference in someone's life? Do you want to make a difference in someone's life that you wouldn't see in the everyday church setting, in the everyday synagogue setting, in the everyday mosque setting? Join the Navy.
It may sound old-fashioned, it may be passé, but I believe that we are blessed every single day to live within the borders of a land where we can see that everyone is equal and everyone is free. Our values and our valor still remain. So every time Old Glory is raised, I will stand for the stars, I will stand for the stripes, I will stand for the ones who laid down their lives so we can breathe in freedom, every woman, every man, for one nation under God. I will stand. Our founding fathers struggled, men and women died, defending ideologies that govern all our lives. Rights from our Creator, even life and liberty, they will not be torn asunder by man or tyranny. So as we stand and honor them today, we can lift our voices and proclaim, I will stand for the stars, I will stand for the stripes, I will stand for the ones who lay down their lives so we can breathe in freedom, every woman, every man, for one nation under God. The world will never understand what we know is true, that America is more than a land, she's a woman, me and you. I will stand for the stars, I will stand for the stripes, I will stand for the ones who lay down their lives so we can breathe in freedom, every woman, every man, for one nation under God. I will stand for the stars, I will stand for the stripes, I will stand for the ones who lay down their lives so we can breathe in freedom, every woman, every man, for one nation under God. I will stand, I will
And the priest shall come forward and speak to the people and say,
As you draw near this day to battle, do not fear. For the Lord your God is he that goes with you, to fight for you against your enemies, to give you the victory. Deuteronomy chapter 20. From the earliest recorded writings of our faith, men and women have answered the call of God to march and to minister alongside their soldiers. The chaplain's role has been shaped by church history. In 1175, the Synod of Westminster determined that chaplains should be prohibited from taking up arms.
The duty of a chaplain is the care of souls, and it is well if he meddle in no other business, but make the care of souls his only care. Reformation Commentary, 16th century.
From the birth of our nation, chaplains served along with the soldiers of the colonial militias and the Continental Army. Early in the Revolution, General Washington ordered his commanders to provide for the spiritual welfare of the men.
Every regiment shall be staffed with chaplains. They must be persons of good character and exemplary lives. George Washington, 1776.
The dawn of the 1860s brought on the bloodiest war in American history. These chaplains from the 9th Virginia Corps were among the almost 4,000 full and part-time chaplains who served the Union or Confederate armies. Trying to sustain morale and faith of soldiers caught in a chaotic military existence was an overwhelming task, as death waited for thousands.
Dear Sir and Madam, it is my painful duty to announce to you the death of your son, Thomas Maddox, a sergeant of 2nd Kentucky Regiment. He was killed in the Battle of Hartsville, December 7th. He was as brave as the bravest. As sure as the Bible is true and religion a divine reality, his spirit rest. Death shall restore him immortal. May the God of all grace comfort your hearts as only he can. Yours respectively, G.B. Overton, sometime chaplain, 2nd Kentucky, 1862.
Some 41 Union and Confederate chaplains lost their lives ministering to America's soldiers.
These are the spiritual leaders of the United States Army, ordinary Americans who have answered our nation's extraordinary call to nurture the living, care for the wounded, and honor the fallen.
In the crucible of war, often it's the spiritual strength that a soldier has, is their belief and faith in God that will get them through the most difficult times.
They are rabbis, ministers, imams, and priests who serve our nation's heroes and their families as committed members of the United States Army.
I am just hoping to be able to serve our soldiers as best I can, within my faith and even, everybody else.
From the battles of Lexington and Concord to Fallujah and Kandahar, chaplains have been an integral part of Army history and remain vital to its future.
They're out there contributing to the Army's mission, contributing to soldiers and their lives and their happiness, and definitely taking care of the families.
The United States Army Chaplain Corps will be there, in any mission, in any place, to all faiths, and at any cost.
You walk up a mountain in war with a soldier, and they know you're on their side. When they know you're on their side, whether they believe or not, they know that God is with them.
I was selected as a training superintendent, and Chaplain Street was my squadron chaplain. Basic training is a real different environment. We're throwing these typically young men and women into a situation that they've never been into before. literally thousands of miles away from home. And, you know, a lot of times the trainees can seem like they're having some real difficulties or real issues. And if you peel back the onion a little bit, a lot of times getting to the root of those problems, and he was great at that. You know, he'd find out that maybe the reason they were experiencing difficulties was something that they had, something completely unrelated to training, but maybe something that they were going through personally or back home, and was able to help them get squared away. But I would bet that 80% of the time when a trainee was having issues that they thought they were just not going to be able to overcome, once they talked to a chaplain and came back to the flight, they were good to go. And the chaplain would always encourage, seeing that trainee on a continuing basis if they needed to, and a lot of times they took advantage of it, and it really, really helped. I just loved it when Chaplain Street was on the microphone with 1,000 airmen on a parade field, getting ready to graduate from basic training, getting ready to go to tech training, and then off to serve in the United States Air Force, Iraq, Afghanistan, who knows where. He would deliver the kind of message that I personally thought they needed to hear. And it wasn't, a lot of times it wasn't a lot of flower and a lot of fluff, but it was, this is what we're here to do. God is looking out for us, and we're going to be okay because of that. And I just really appreciated it, and I think a lot of people did.
To see you again. Good to see you too. When you hear the stories of so many of these servicemen and women and what they've been through and what they've overcome and what they've achieved and the sacrifices they've made, it's an inspiration. It reminds you of what an honor it is to really support them and serve with them. My name is Bill Cantrell, and I'm a commander in the United States Navy Chaplain Corps. At Naval Medical Center San Diego, my ministry there, I would say, is perhaps the most challenging I've had since I've come into the Navy. And I mean that in a very positive way, actually. I've had the opportunity to work with a number of combat veterans who have really taken, their experience in the war has taken a toll on them, emotionally, psychologically, oftentimes physically. There's one particular Marine right now that has been on so many deployments. His role is a sniper, and now he's at the point where he's having to wrestle with the effect this has, not just on him personally, but how connected he is with his family, with his wife, his daughter, with the community around him, with the people he serves with. Clearly, the great risk that they take in sacrificing so much of their life to do these things is such an invitation for moral injury. And that is really an opportunity for the chaplains to step in and really take up the reins where science and medicine can't necessarily provide all the answers. Heavenly Father, we give thanks this day for... They are in some of the most challenging times in their life. Sometimes it just means being with them and being someone they can trust, being someone they can be honest with, being someone who cares. To become a Navy chaplain, it's an opportunity, but it's also it's a challenge. It will help you really understand your vocation as a pastor, because you'll be stretched in ways and challenged in ways that you may not be in a parochial setting. And it can be absolutely wonderful, can ground you in who you are as a chaplain.
Staff Sergeant Scott Brookhorst. Staff Sergeant Scott William Brookhorst.
I think without a question, the most difficult is sometimes the job that's filled with the most honor, and that is paying respects to our soldiers who have given the ultimate sacrifice. I know that for these soldiers who are here that knew him, these will be the last words that are basically spoken for him and about him while we're here. I always feel this great responsibility to say just exactly the right words. We grieve not only for our loss, but maybe even more so for the loss of this husband and father. Scott Brunkhorst was I've always said ministry happens in the midst of chaos, and this is where we're needed. Well, you know, I would say that we're always busy. We're always on the move. Some of our battalions may have as many as 6, 7, 8 combat outposts. It's done literally wherever your boots are on the ground. God, I thank you for these men and their commitment. I pray that you would keep your hand over them. And today particularly, we thank you for the resurrection. I pray this in your name. Amen.
Let this place resound with joy,
right, gentlemen.
Echoing the mighty song of all God's people.
I really believe that having a religious service reminds them more of home than almost anything else. It takes them out of the environment, which is stressful, and it takes them back to a time of security, peace, also a relationship with God that helps them. Everything about the service is a comfort, and it gives them strength, and also it's a very
Father,
healing
who art
thing.
in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, and thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
I deal with pastoral counseling every day. Probably, I would say probably at least once every day. So when you saw it happen, what did you see? Just all of a sudden he disappears into smoke?
Yeah, it was just a big flash, and I just saw it just engulf his body. It seems like, you know, no matter what we do, they figure out what we're doing and how we're walking, and they set up those IEDs just for that. You know, I never thought this kind of thing would bother me either. And I don't think it's so much being shot at, or even watching the enemy get wounded or hurt or die. It was just watching my buddies get hurt. And I can't help but think when it's my turn, you know.
There's no doubt that our young men and women who leave their mothers and fathers, their sisters and brothers, their wives and their children, and raise their hand, face the opportunity of going to war, possibly not coming home. These are heroes. Heroism is born of integrity, and it is religious conviction which inspires integrity and helps people discover a sense of moral clarity. Since the founding of our nation, our Sea Service personnel have been accompanied by their chaplains and religious ministry professionals drawn from the many faith traditions. The Chaplain Corps assures that our nation is well served by the Sea Service personnel who are spiritually confident, genuinely cared for, well advised, and morally centered. Our families must know that the sacrifices they might be asked to make are considered sacred.
An old World War II Navy chaplain that I knew passed away. And I remember thinking about at his funeral, what would somebody do if they wanted to be a Navy chaplain? Started falling through the right doors into the chaplain candidate program when I was in graduate school.
When I was in seminary, there was a chaplain candidacy program. I had a chance to be with an infantry unit for a month, and I knew this is what I wanted to do.
Being a pastor had its own rewards. It was fun in a lot of ways, but it wasn't, for me, as challenging as I wanted. It seemed like chaplain was always in the back of my mind.
The more I found out about the ministry in the Navy, the more intrigued I was and saw the tremendous need for chaplains. Went into the seminary, graduate school seminary. We do 4-year graduate degree. And after the first year of graduate school, I was commissioned in the Navy as an ensign.
It's physically challenging, it's emotionally challenging when you have to be separated from your family. It can be spiritually challenging. You have to make sure, especially as a chaplain, that you stay full because you minister from the overflow of what you have in you. And if you're empty spiritually, then you don't have anything to offer the troops.
You're out in the middle of, God.